If you are a third or fourth year student of engineering or an administrator or a member of the placement department of an engineering college, then this video session is for you. If we look at the campus placement scenario in India, here, we are really not obsessed with placement packages and money. What's more important for a fresh engineer are the greater responsibilities given in the job so you can learn rewarding skills and domains in the job and get a rewarding career path, but placement package is the best indicator of your worth according to the recruiting corporate. The best of packages obviously would be reserved for an IIT graduate in our country, so the highest Indian placement package in recent years has been ₹70 lakh per annum. The crore packages are always international packages in dollars or euros and have reached ₹2.3 crore per annum, but remember, a basic salary of $100,000 in the US, when multiplied by 0.3, the World Bank's PPP factor for India, gives $30,000 and is worth about ₹18 lakh in India. It was for this difference why some students from IITs, who are offered crores, decide to stay back in India. Moreover, taxes and the cost of living overseas are also quite high. But now let's look at the grim side of the story. More than 27 lakh seats are lying vacant in various engineering institutes across the country. The All India Council for Technical Education, or AICTE, has decided to shut down about 800 engineering colleges from the next academic year. This shows that fresh engineers are not getting the job they planned for, so less school students are opting for engineering as a career. Year-wise, more and more engineering colleges are closing down. Some are closing down because AICTE finds that these colleges are not up to the required standards, while others are closing down because they do not have enough students. Moreover, lowest placement packages even at IITs have ranged from 4 to 8 lakh per annum, and the number of students not placed or those who opt out of the placement process are 20 to 30% every year. There is a huge difference between the highest and lowest placement packages. Why is there such a huge difference in packages offered to students of the same college? In terms of technical knowledge, by and large, there is not much of a difference between the whole batch. The deciding factor is performance in the campus placement process, which is decided by performance in aptitude test and interview. Put simply, 4 things: ability to score well in aptitude test, good interview performance, good communication skills, and good personality.
IvyLeague Career Services started with helping students of IIT Delhi for the placement process in 2003. We initially trained IIT Delhi students for interviews and English language communication skills.
Well, a little bit of introduction about us. Our organization, IvyLeague Career Services, was started in the year 1994 to bridge the gap between the education provided by educational institutes, such as schools and colleges, and the expertise needed to excel in competitive exams, careers, and life.
What follows now are the video clips of the Campus Placement Enhancement program conducted at IIT Delhi on October 1, 2003, onwards.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening, all of you. Better. This whole program that we are offering out here, we would actually have liked to go in for the first A's, B's, C's, followed by, in the end, the Z. But the initial part of this program, which is basically a personality development session of sorts, we'd go in for that at a slightly later stage. Interviews are basically a new method of testing. If you compare it with written examinations, then you've been giving, you're giving those examinations for the last 17, 18 years, and you're pretty comfortable with them. Interview is the first time when somebody does not test your knowledge, somebody tests you. Somebody wants to know you in a better manner. As a result, because it's something absolutely new, you have a certain amount of xenophobia for it. The focus here in an interview is not about your academic knowledge. Yes, a small reflection of academic knowledge is definitely required. But when somebody pours into your head and gets an idea about your personality, that is something with which all of us get uncomfortable. There's something called as pedestal syndrome. If I talk to my college professor, or I talk to somebody who is high above me in position or in status or in power, then there's a certain amount of nervousness that comes into us. We go in for making mistakes which probably even a 6-year-old child would not make. That person would go in for telling you things which you all have on your heads, but probably they would not come to your lips. Pedestal syndrome basically means that the moment you go in for talking to someone whom you put on a high pedestal, you'll always have to crane your neck in order to talk to that person. In an interview situation where the interview board or the interview panel goes in for deciding your careers, the moment you start reinforcing this thing in your heads that these are people who are going to make or break my careers. What I'm going to be, would I be successful or not, is probably in the hands of these 4, 5, 6 or 2 or 3 people only. That's the time when you start believing that these are people who are sitting on a pedestal. What should be the actual situation in an interview? Should you keep that interview panel on a high pedestal or not? Obviously not. You should probably give them a certain amount of respect. They deserve that. But try not keeping them on pedestals as such. Human beings lived inside jungles for millions of years. In that particular process, in that particular scenario, tension was something which was very beneficial for them. They would hear the roar of a lion, of a predator, and suddenly their heartbeat would increase, blood would be pumped more towards their muscles, their breathing rate would go in for an increase, and less of blood would move towards their brains, which meant that in that predator and prey situation, tension was something which was actually beneficial for you. Nowadays, when you do not really require brawn power in order to succeed, you basically require brain power to succeed. Tension is something which stops you or mitigates your success points. Then all of us have an apprehension of a situation where the interview panel will go in for asking questions for which we do not have an answer, for which we probably have not prepared. So what's the solution for that? We prepare for it. We right now sit down, talk to people, get an idea, check with our seniors, check with alumni, check with any and all persons who can go in for giving us an idea about what kind of questions can possibly be asked by an interview panel, and try working out the answers of all of those questions. Most of these questions, when they are asked inside an interview panel room, you would probably not have the presence of mind to pop up the answer immediately. But if you sit down with yourself, do a certain amount of introspection, you would be in a better position to go in for answering all of those questions. Okay, let's see what are the broad things which get tested inside during an interview. Aptitude and knowledge. These are things which by and large get tested either through a written examination or an aptitude test, or would get reflected through all of your academic transcripts. But the basic two things which get tested during an interview situation are your commitment and your ability to think logically. Let's look at the ability to think logically first. During your jobs, you would be facing various situations for which you would not be trained. You would come across situations for which there would probably be nobody there to give you an advice, or there would be probably no source which can actually give you a certain amount of direction. That is why in an interview situation, they would always look for people who have a certain presence of mind everywhere. People who are proactive, people who can think on their feet, and people who can find solutions. They are not people who identify problems, but they should be people who can go in for finding more of solutions. A second thing which gets tested is something called as commitment. And commitment is something which does not get tested by all of those academic questions which probably a placement interview panel is going to pose in front of you. Yes, academic questions would be a part of it. They're looking for people with a certain background, and the reason why they come to IIT Delhi would be because they know that a certain amount of academic knowledge would be there with you. You'll be the best people to have it. They're going in for looking for something else also. And how do they test for your commitment? How would they get an idea about your commitment? I'd like this thing to be very interactive. Is there any way to check your commitment levels? Okay, yeah.
Your biodata says it all.
Your biodata definitely says it all. But how would they come to know that once you land up with a job with that particular organization, you would continue with it and you would put your heart and your soul into that particular job? How would they get an idea about that particular thing?
The previous performance.
Previous performance. That is a reflection. They get a clear idea about your commitment levels by comparing you to previous performers in their own company. Okay. Commitment is normally tested through a few questions which check about things in which you have an active interest. For example, your hobbies. A single question on a hobby, a single question upon an extracurricular activity that you take part in, or a single question about something which you do by your own will, not academics. That is the thing about which, which gives them a better idea about your commitment levels. I'll give you an example. Suppose they ask me about my area of interest. It would be something which would rotate around chess. Chess would be an area in which if I read the newspapers and there is one article, then I would read the article with more interest I would remember more things, I would understand more things, and 20 days from now, I would remember most of the stuff. Compare me with somebody who's not interested in chess, and this person, if he reads the same article, he would go in for a lesser level of interest, would understand less, would remember less, and 10 days from now probably would not remember a single thing about that particular article. So there's something called incidental knowledge which they would definitely be looking for, and that incidental knowledge would be knowledge which you automatically or involuntarily keep on collecting in your heads, and your area of interest should be an area from which you should be in a position to answer at least 8 out of 10 questions which are posed in front of you. Okay, let's quickly look at the various parts of an interview and the various stages during an interview. The first type of interview is called as a structured or a database interview, and this would normally happen in the beginning of an interview. They would have a set of questions in front of them, and they want you to answer those questions first of all, and this is basically a checklist of sorts, and they want to get a clear idea whether you qualify according to their standards or not, the minimum standards. Targeted interview, it is slightly different. This targeted interview normally happens when I want 2 engineers from NSIT, and I tell my HR guy that go there and I want students who can do these 3 things. So the whole interview would be focused only or targeted only upon those 3 things.
Students have a lot of unanswered questions. We help them with all answers.
Now ask me any question which you have any.
Sir, what about people getting over-impressed? Interview candidates getting over-impressed as in this guy has not worked with the company for more than 6 months.
Yes, I need to warn you about something. Just one last advice. Kids, just one last advice before you leave. IITs, in IIT Delhi I encountered the same question, and there the situation was, there were 3 companies which had come to IIT Delhi, and they talked to Professor Kushal saying that we want to take good students, but the problem with your institute is students do not stay with us for more than 3 to 6 months.
So how we fool them? As in we definitely are going to stay with them for more than 6 months, but we have to convince them that we have.
You have to convince them by asking for what kind of a career growth can you expect in their company. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. If you ask about 5-year plans, obviously they'll understand that this guy is going to stay at least for 2 years. Plus, this kind of a job hopping was in fashion 2-3 years back. Now economy is not so stable that you can go into doing so much of job hopping. The initial placement packages which students are getting are better, but economy is not in a situation where somewhere after 2-3 years of your work experience you can go in for doing a lot of job hopping. You cannot do it in the beginning, you cannot do it in the end. Now companies are looking for employees for a longer stretch of time, employees who would grow along with them. Only then you grow exponentially. Possibly take your jump after 2 years at least, 3 years, 5 years, and at max going for getting employed in 5 to 6 companies in your life, or maybe after the second company, invest some money, become an entrepreneur, do something. But do not do job hopping. It is the worst thing which gets reflected on your resume.
So there's another thing. So can you throw some light upon psychometric tests?
Psychometric tests, you cannot fool them. That is the first rule. You do not know what they are looking for. So if I have a job situation which requires a person who would blindly accept even if I give him 12 hours of work, then the psychometric test would be focused upon that. Which means whether you need to go in for answering a yes or a no or something else, you do not know. So never try to fool a psychometric test. Anything else which you would like to know, guys?
Suppose you cannot answer a question in the interview. So how do you get it across to the interviewer?
You can say, I really don't have an answer to that question, or I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. And there's even no reason for you to apologize also. In most interviews, I've seen a lot of people going in for saying a thank you for a question for an answer. So there's no reason why you should have each and every answer. There are lots of questions for which you may not have answers. If they're looking for people who just have a lot of information in their heads, they'll probably use only computers in their companies. But they want people who are human beings, who can make mistakes, people who probably do not know a few things, people who have to be taught new things.
We work in partnership with the placement departments, and we have learned a lot from them. In the following video clip, Professor Kushal Sen, Head of Training and Placement Department, IIT Delhi, shares his wisdom with our students.
Interestingly, he has said about being your, attitudes during the interview, I think those attitudes should be throughout your life. I mean, there's nothing that he has said which are only meant for those 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So let us see, is it possible that we actually make it a normal thing for us? Normally, I am going to be honest, in dealing with my friends, dealing with my teachers, dealing with everybody. Why should I be dishonest? Why should I be? Unless I am forced, put in the corner and things like that, we'll find situations. But let us say we try to be as honest as possible. That's what I'm saying. Attitude, which I say, is attitude to learn. Why should you stop learning at any stage of life? Nobody in this world can become perfect. There's so much to learn, and you are creating knowledge every day, and therefore you will have to be in that position to accept. Then you have to learn. There was one alumni who happens to be a senior vice president in a company. What he said is that this learning attitude you can never ever stop. I mean, what he said is, you may obviously, generally this is the problem with the IIT students, shall we say, that you always feel that, well, I have come to this organization, but everybody up there, they're not good. I'm in the wrong place. Possibly. You may be right. Invariably, you will be wrong. Because even the smallest man in that organization may know a few things and actually teach you a few ones. Like the person who's actually operating on that machine, which you are supposed to be supervising, he may know actually more about that machine than you know. There's no harm. Whenever there is a chance, you learn from him also. It gives a sense of belonging. The third year is the right point. You start. Fourth year, you already matured a bit, but you still work hard, because life is not just 5 years, 7 years, 35 years of career that you got to think about. The planning is, of course, 5 years, but something which you not planned, but still have to work for 30, 40 years. And if you become an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're going to be working for the rest of your life till you're flat, more or less. So, what we're looking at attitude, we discuss these issues. You have your career, your nucleus committees there. You talk to your seniors. For a person who is going to give something to the organization. And I believe in one thing, that if you are in that organization until you have left that organization, you actually work for it with heart. And when you have to go, you say, now I have to go, because either I am getting a different career path, or I'm actually getting a good jump, or I actually just want to change. I hope you don't mind. And not do a thing that I have an interview letter, I get another call from somewhere else, I don't even inform the people that I'm going, and suddenly they find for the last 1 week that I don't see the guy. That actually gives a very bad impression, not just about you, but all your colleagues and friends and peers and what you have. I think that's what we, the attitude, will have to work on. And this is my belief. It could be wrong, but hopping every 3 months cannot be the best thing in life. A certain amount of stability is required. That one of the executives said that if you go there within a week you leave, or within 15-20 days you leave, they're not bothered. I think you made a wrong choice, I made a wrong choice, you're gone. But if you stay there for 6 months and leave, they feel that something has gone wrong. This fellow, 6 months, an investment. And I thought now you'll be for 1 year or 2 years. After 2 years, if you go, then they say, maybe now we have understood too much about each other. No problem. But this fast hopping can always lead to problems. This has been an attitude which people say about IITs. I wouldn't say IIT Delhi, because that would look bad. But in general, people feel that. And I hope with some of the things that he said, later contacts and so on and so forth, it should be possible for us to improve our behavior, not just for interviews, in general as such. We want to become the best people around. There's no doubt about your intellectual capabilities. I'm sure as a person also, I believe all of you are good, really good. 1 or 2 things here, there can happen, but in general, you don't mean bad to anybody. I'm sure about it. So, Let's get that attitude right and let's go. Future is yours. Thank you very much.
We realize that we need to use psychometric tests for students to understand what type of a personality they have. Only then they can change it. The following video clips are from Campus Placement Enhancement Training at Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Jamia Millia Islamia, Delhi, where we started using psychometric tests for the first time in 2004.
Unless and until you have a clear idea about who you really are, you would not be able to project yourself as a slightly different person in case there's a particular corporate which requires a slightly different person. Okay? So in case of today's psychometric test that we are going for, you will not go in for fudging up any answers. If you feel that A is the right answer according to you, if A is the first thing that comes to your mind, I want you to take A as the right answer. Do not think it would give me or it would portray me in a bad light, or I would come out as a person who's possibly an introvert or possibly somebody who doesn't have too many friends. No, that's not an area of concern. I'm not going to discuss your performance with any of the rest of the students out here. Your performance would only be given to you. It would be an absolutely secret thing. And even I would not have a very clear idea. I would just feed in all your data into a com. I would not have any idea. I just get printouts, and those printouts would be handed over to you. Okay? So in case of the test which we will go in for taking today, be as honest as possible, be as fast as possible when you are attempting those questions, and do not think too much. Do not philosophize. Do not try to change any answers. Do not think I need to come out as a hero in this test. Okay? Now I want you to move on to the next exercise. There are two exercises now. Read the instructions very carefully.
So what is role?
Okay, your role is you are a student, you are a learner. Proactive. What does this word mean?
Respond to situations.
Okay, let's understand it. Suppose you're going in a car on some road and you see there's a big stone this big on the road. Now there can be various stages of proactivity. If you just look at the stone, do not even think about it and you move on ahead, you have the lowest level of proactivity. If you look at that stone and then you curse NDMC and MCD for leaving that stone on the road and not clearing it, then you have a slightly higher level of proactivity. If you get down from your car and you remove that stone, then you have an even higher level of proactivity. And if you cannot remove that stone yourself and you take help from 2-3 bystanders out there and then you remove that stone from the road because it can cause accidents, then you have the highest level of proactivity. Which means proactivity means two things. First, do not wait for others to do things, and in case you cannot do it yourself, take help. You have to take help initially. You should not hesitate in taking help. You're never going for a feeling that if I go in for telling this person that I do not know how to do this particular job, then he'll have a bad impression of me. This feeling inside your head should go away. When you pick up your first jobs, you would not know anything at all about corporate setups. You'll have to learn a lot of things. You'll have to learn a lot of corporate politics also. You possibly have to become a corporate shark, somebody whom people fear. We have people in companies who do nothing at all and they are just corporate sharks, and they are people who have risen to the highest levels. Companies need even these people. And companies realize that yes, these people play a very important role inside the company because everyone remains on their toes just because of this person. You possibly need to learn a few things about politics also. How to handle people, how to make people happy just by doing a little thing for them, how to mold people according to your requirement, and then you need to draw your own ethical lines that I'm going to do these things this wrong only. I'll not do things more wronger than this. So at the moment you are all very innocent. You've just studied. The maximum wrongs that you may have done is possibly pilfering a little bit of money from your parents, or possibly changing your marks on your mark sheet, or possibly slight amount of cheating when you give exams. These are the 2-3 things which you could have done possibly. But when you enter into the corporate world, you'll have to do 20 things which possibly you will feel very guilty about when you do them, when you have to do them. And you'll find everyone does them. And that is the right way. So what defines what is wrong and right? What is right is what everyone does and is acceptable. right? The definition has to change in your minds. The definition of everything has to change in your minds as you enter into your first jobs. So I simply make a phone call and tell them, the mail which you have sent, no, stop that project. It is hopeless. This is all that I do. Everyone wants me to write 10-page emails in which I write bulleted points that yes, you need to do all of these things. They're fed up of me, but now I've risen to the stage wherein they cannot kick me out. So I can afford to do that. In your initial part of your job, you will not have a lot of say. In your initial part of your job, you would not be in a position to dictate terms. So you will have to go according to the flow. Whatever other people do, whatever is the right way to do things, whatever is the smart way of doing things, you need to do that. But in the process, do not just work upon smartness. You also need to make yourself better. You need to polish yourself, you need to learn new things, you need to make yourself a better person. Don't just become a corporate shark. There is a scientist by the name of Rotter. In 1966, he was doing experiments to find out why some people work very hard and do not succeed, and there are other people who do not work hard and even then they succeed, although they both give the same exams. The reason behind this was something called as and when this survey was done all across US, it was found that black kids, even if they work hard, they do not get good marks. Even if they know all the answers, they don't get good marks. The white kids, if they work just a little bit, they automatically ended up getting good grades. So all those racists which are present there in the US, they started saying, no, this is something which proves that white people are better than black people. And then this guy Rotter, he's decided to study this particular new thing which was called as the Pygmalion effect at that time, and he gave an explanation. He gave the explanation that in case of black children, if they can just stay out of jail, if they do not sell drugs, and if they do not get beaten up on the street, and they just go to school, pass that year and move on and get promoted to the next year, that is enough for them. Their parents do not expect more from them. On the other hand, in case of white children, their parents expect them to succeed. As a result of which, if they work slightly harder, they automatically succeed. This was very surprising for him. He tried checking the IQ levels of all students, black and white, and he found that the IQ levels were exactly the same. Their brains were same, but they were thinking in a different manner.
So, what does IvyLeague offer to colleges and BTech students? We know different engineering colleges and their students have different needs. So we customize our offered programs according to a training need analysis and what the college wants. Our campus placement enhancement program can be conducted in your college campus to ease your students and to take care of geographical constraints. The first two sessions, the campus placements introductory session and the training need analysis, are compulsory initial sessions. After these two sessions, all the rest of the sessions can be chosen by the college by mixing and matching according to college needs and wants. The components that you can choose or decide not to have are personality improvement sessions, personal interview training sessions, interpersonal skills, communication skills, English language usage, emotional intelligence, aptitude test training, and simulated interviews and analysis. There are various payment options. Payment can be made exclusively by college administration, made exclusively by students, or they can be shared by students and college administration. Whatever suits you. If you still have any doubts or you want more details, then you can check our website www.ivyleague.us.com for more information. Or you can also address your queries directly to us. Feel free to send us an email at mail@ivyleague.us.com. You can also SMS or WhatsApp your query to 8800-283-465. Our team will love to design and implement a program according to your needs.